Hi, in this video we're going to continue on with the UD window takeoff data training. Um, we're specifically going to be focusing on how to create data in the UD window, basically creating it from scratch. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, by now you should have already filled out all the detail numbers on this detail column inside details that correlates to your Revit family based on the shop drawings. Okay, so before we begin, we're going to look into your intersection report. Right, and as I explained in a previous video about the intersection report, anything here where it's under intersections without data, all the families here, families with or without the profile modifiers, these are the ones inside your model that doesn't have data, right? That's why it's here. And if you go back over here, it's the ones in red. Okay. So let's pick out a couple so we can do them together. So let's start out with a horizontal that's not a modifier. So let's start out with this one, which is a SW75 3165 007P. And the reason why we're starting with the horizontal first is usually that's a little easier. So let's start out with that. Okay, so next we'll open your Bluebeam session, your shop drawings, via the Bluebeam. So in here, it's no different from how you would try to find a family relating to the detail numbers by searching for the family here. We did this in the previous training about the assigning details, right? So let's go on ahead and just search for the family that we're looking for. So it's SW75 3170 007. Okay. Click into that. That looks like a strip head at a door condition. So take note, it's 1 on 602. So let's open up your CAD, your UD window. So very easy. Let's go from left to right. We know the detail we're talking about is 1 on 602. The reference detail, we can do that a little later if we need to. So this family should be SW75 3170 007-P. So let's put on a description here. Leave it entirely up to you how you want to do it, but you can follow me as well if you want. So VHQ2. Let's see. 2 captured strip head at door. Okay. So here you have successfully added the detail portion of this family. Okay, next we're going to fill out the use section of the UD window for this family. So to fill out this use session, let's get a little help from our tag use or takeoff data nomenclature. So where you can locate that is you can go inside your Vans HQ training folder, and then it's right here. It says nomenclature for takeoff data. Open that up. So it's right here. So mine has already kind of went straight to the head, but then you can probably just do a search because we're dealing with the head right now, right? So if you look back at the shop drawings, it's a strip head at a door condition. So just search for the keyword head. It has a bunch, kind of just look for, click around, and you'll notice that the screenshot is a strip head as well. So we can probably use this as a guide. So let's redo this through this together. This is you can kind of see here it says captured strip head. So let's go back to the shop drawing. It's a captured strip head. So in captured strip head, you want to name the first part of the tag username as captured. For captured head will be head, and then this will be at a strip wall. So S, right? C stands for current wall, and then SD stands for stack. So in this case, it's strip. So S, measurement from Revit resource line to DLO, i.e. 2.5 will be 250. So this one would be if you were to go into and find this family in the parts library. So let's do that. So SW753170-007. So open up CAD. Let's minimize this. So just go into the parts library. Over under the details tab, you can go into Revit families. So this would be SW753170-007. So this is one way to access it. Another way would be, I'll show you that after this explanation. So what we want here is the Revit reference line. So the Revit reference line, or the insertion point, is basically where the datum point is set at for inside the Revit family. So in this case, it's at the top of the head. Okay. So if you take a look at the nomenclature, it's at the top of the head, right? And then it's from the Revit insertion or Revit reference line to DLO. So DLO would be 2.5, same as this. So our number would be 250, same as the example. And then as far as the fourth letter goes, since it's at a door, we'll just use the default. It's usually vision, so we'll just do V for vision in this case. If you have a spandrel, it will be S. If you have a lifting lug, it's L. That's more so for at the stack joints and whatnot. And then you'll notice that there's other explanations. There's one hole, no hole, two holes. Those are really more dedicated to the stack joint. Since we're doing the strip window, we don't really have to think about that yet. Oh, side note, if you want to access the Revit family, not through the parts library, you can go ahead and access that through the S drive under parts library, and then go into, oh, sorry, not the parts library, the details library, and then Revit families right here. So these are also your families as well, so you can actually open it through the folder inside the S drive. Okay, so let's get back to the naming of our tagline. So again, we confirm that it's captured head, so it's head, and a strip window, so head S, 2.5 inch from the Revit reference line to daylight, so it's 250. So far it's head S 250, and then by default, since it will be vision. Okay, so let's plug that in. Go back to your CAD, pop open the UD window, so just click in it. This one says it'll dock into your CAD, so it won't disappear. So under part use column, just type in head S250. Okay. So the next part we're going to insert is the rule, right? So it will be your conditional, right? So in a project, you'll have a left and right condition, meaning you'll have like a jam to vertical, vertical to jam, vertical to corner. But for our data, we usually like to do the condition left and right, right? Meaning it will always be vert to vert, jam to jam, or corner to corner. This way, it allows the program to make the combinations. So you're essentially just making the source rules, source conditions, right? Those are like what we like to call it. So very basic. So let's look into what kind of verticals we have. So because you're dealing with the horizontal part, the head usually just intersects with a vertical. So right off the bat, let's just do your typical vertical. Okay. So for this job, we have a capture condition. So let's look at the tag name for this. It would be vert138 and vert138. Right? If you're curious as to what this naming nomenclature is about, you can refer to this guide right here, and it'll explain to you. But for the sake of this, let's just go into creating the rules for the head. So very simple. Just type in a dash vert 138 to vert. Okay, next we'll fill out the description. So for the description, we like to describe the condition, right? So basically your rule, because there's really no point in saying it's 2.5-inch captured strip head at door hair because it's already described here. So this part would be better off using to describe the rule instead. So in this case, it would be just vert to vert, and then we like to bring out the mullion width, the profile width. So in this case, it's 2 3/4. How to notice is 1/3 stands for 1 3/8, and you just times that by 2 is 2 3/4, and that's our typical vertical width, anyways. So in the next column, you'll see the vertical. This is not a vertical part, so we'll leave that unchecked. Leave these also unchanged as for now. We're going to deal with that later. So once you finish your first one, just hit apply and then refresh, and you'll notice that it automatically generated a rules container for you. So in here, it's already filled out. Okay. So you'll soon see this populate as you provide more and more of these uses. So for now, we're just going to learn how to plug these in manually. So in the next one, we're going to move into how to fill out this portion, the assembly. Okay. Okay, let's begin. So under part number column, you just type in the part number. So in this case, it's W75 3170. Okay. Description is grayed out. You can't really put anything there. You can kind of see how it's filled out automatically, everything. And that's because there's one over here. So it kind of remembers, it looks into your database and the list, and it just, if there is an existing one, they'll just fill out the next best one. So let's kind of go over it. It's not shop use. We don't want the clips attached, at least not now. Attach box is checked because those are going to get quote unquote pre-assembled onto the verticals to show the screw spline hose for programming. Okay, you can kind of see how these are set. We're going to have to check that later. Finish is already set as paint. Fab is N. So in this case, since it's a vertical, vert to vert, let's change that to V. Okay. And as far as our adjustments, all right, now you're going to have to look at the shop drawings, right? So this condition would be for a vert to vert condition. So if you look at, let's leave this here. Let's split the screen. Okay. So you can kind of see how this will be your faceless system. So that's where your part kind of ends. and then this is kind of matching over here. So you can kind of tell that your head should stop daylight, at least this main body part, and then this front portion, which is your face stop portion, should stop also daylight as well. So you can kind of see it over here. Right. You may wonder what the 16th is about, so we'll get into that when we actually do fabs for this particular part. So for now, your adjustment would be, instead of minus a 32nd, it will be minus 1.1 3/8. Oh. You may wonder why it's 1 3/8. It's because our tagline is drawn to wherever the Revit reference line is, or the grid line. So you can kind of see that if you were to pop open a regular vertical family, so let's minimize this. See if we can find that. We may have to use the new vertical because I think all the old ones are sifted out. Yep, it's not there. So let's use the new W75 as an explanation, right? They're essentially the same part, it's just the back of it's a little different. So let's use this as your Inviso and capture condition is the same thing. So you can kind of see how this Revit family, the insertion point, the Revit reference line is in the center, as you can see. So that means when it draws your taglines, your horizontal tagline is going to stop right there. So in order for you to get to where you want it to stop, which in this case is daylight, you're going to have to do a deduction, right? So if you measure from here to here, it's 1 3/8. So if you round that to decimal, 1.375, which is why we have this adjustment. So on left and right, it's the same thing. Okay, so just hit apply, which I did already. Auto cut box is checked, and that takes care of the assembly portion. Next, we'll move on to miscellaneous. So let's do it one by one. Let's open up the Bluebeam session, the detail. So let's first take care of the fasteners. So if you take a look at this detail, you can kind of see how it's two fasteners for that fastens to the vertical through the screw port, and it's called out 13 VP, 2 on each side. So if you look at a unit, if you look at the head straight on, you're going to see it left and the right. So let's use a elevation as an example. So let's use this as an example. So this will be your head, right? You will have 2 on the left, and then 2 on the right. All right, so let's plug that in right now. So under the miscellaneous item, you just type in the fastener part number, description, all this stuff is already filled out. These are usually, again, this is filled out based on, if you have a previous condition that's similar. So in this case, we'll do it per part, third preset, and for total. Quantity top is also known as quantity left, so 2 on the left side, and quantity bottom is also on the right side, so quantity right, so 2 on the right. So this would also be shop use because these will be required, will be used during assembly. Okay, so you need that shop use box checked, and then the finish and vendor is filled out automatically. All right, next let's move on to the next part. So again, open up your shop. You may just have this on the other screen, so you may not have to always pop it up and down. You can just look at the other screen. So in this case, let's look at the See if there's any gaskets normally. So there's no gaskets here, so we can omit that from the miscellaneous. So that's good. Okay, so there's one right here. Where is this right here? This one to 42C, which is a sponge block. Okay, so that's also going to be per part, per side. So it's going to be 2 on each side. So let's plug that in. To C, and then once you enter it, you see how it's filled out again. Okay. 2, and then the shop use box is also checked because they'll use it during assembly. Okay, always hit apply. Okay, next one is, let's see if there's anything else. Okay, there's this O8D, which is a silicone splice sleeve. This is to kind of cap the top when they're assembling the units in the field, and kind of bridge this cock joint right here. So let's enter that in there. So it's per part. So in this case, it's left to right, doesn't really matter, but we just normally put things on the right side. So you can kind of see how the shop use box is not checked because this is a few use miscellaneous part, right? The unit needs to be installed in order for them to put the silicone splice sleeve up top and then to bridge the cock joint over. So, okay, once you're good with your data, always remember to hit your apply button down here. Once that's done, you essentially learned how to create your data from scratch. With that said, this detail has additional parts as well that needs to be set. So if we go back to the Bluebeam session with the shop drawings, you can see that we have a pocket filler as well as a head insert and also the mini Mac clip. Okay, so let's pause here and see if you guys can enter that on your own. Okay, using the nomenclature guide. Let's open that up. This guy right here. Just try your best. Remember, after we'll come back to this. After the pause, we'll come back to this, and you can compare the data. Okay, and we're back. So you should have already attempted to fill out your data to encompass what the detail shows. Mainly just filling out the head insert as well as the pocket filler. So let's review the head insert first. So right here you'll have filler field use. So if you have followed the guide provided to you, let's review the Bluebeam session. So here, this is the head insert. If you look into the guide, it says for this use, always include the mini Mac clips, which is this part right here, the W75-3608. Okay, and also you see the tag name would be filler field use. So let's go back to the AutoCAD session with the UD window. So you see our part use name or tag name is filler field use. And then the rule for this would be vert 138, and then you'll have the word field use at the end. So usually when you have the word field use at the end for the tag use, the rules are also with the word field use. Okay. So normally you'll find out very soon where it's when you're doing the fabrication drawings, you're either doing it on the unit drawing, right, or you're doing it on the elevations, which essentially is your stick wall or your field use parts. Okay. So with that said, let's move over to the assembly. Very easy. The part number, you just type in the part number W75-3203. It's a field use item, so the shop use box is not checked. These will be filled out later during your parts layout. Finishes paint. fab 1 by default. And then your adjustments should be 1 3/8, minus 1 3/8 from each end, because this part is running daylight. Okay, then move on to your mini-mac clip, which is your W75-3608. Remember that note on the guide. You also have to include this part with the filler. Okay, because they're both few use items, so there's no point in separating the mini-mac into a different tagline. Okay, so W75-3604, not a shop use item. Okay, so in here, these will just be filled out. The finish of this part is mil, so fab is 1, and then the parentheses at parentheses L just means if you were to look at the tagline, the parentheses L would put the part at the left side of the tagline. This is just for the bin model. And then the adjustment of that will be -14, because it's a fixed length part of 2 inches. If you look at the shop drawings, it says 2 inches right here. Okay, so the fixed length would be 2 inches, and because it's a fixed length part and you have this requirement of putting it on the left side of the tag and then you minus 14 inches, in the bin model it will kind of adjust where to loosely put that extrusion at based on the tagline. So it will be put on the left side and then minus 14 inches, and then there's 2 mini-mac clips in that bay, so it will be another one on the right side, minus 14 inches from the right. So moving on to the miscellaneous, the insert itself doesn't have a miscellaneous part, but the mini-macs do. So the mini-max is using a 13 GP. Alright, so let's check that. 13 GP, 2 per clip. So if you take a look at the miscellaneous right here, it says per part is what you should have selected. Quantity of 2. And the shop use checkbox is unchecked because, again, this is for the fuel. Okay, so that takes care of the filler fuel use. All right, next we're going to move on to the pocket filler. So same thing. If you were to follow the guide, so if we look at the I believe it's the very bottom. If you look at this guide right here, it will just show, you have a nice little screenshot here showing you the condition, which is exactly what we're dealing with. So you're just going to call the tag PF999028. It's really just based on the part name in this case. So it will just be PF999028 dash. Okay, now this kind of falls into your unit assembly. It's not a few use item. Again, it's part of your unit. So you don't have to have the word few use in there. If you don't have the word few use in there, then your rules would read the same as well. So in this case, it will be vert 138 to vert 138, same as the head. Okay. So in here, you're going to type out the part name, which is 999-028. In this case, it will be, you have the shop use box checked because it can be pre-assembled onto the strip head. So let's take a look at that. So if you take a look at this part right here, you can pre-assemble and snap this part, this pocket filler, into the head, right? It can be held in place purely based on just friction. Okay, but because of that, you can pre-apply it during the fabrication line. So a little quick rundown how the shop works. So you have the fabrication line, which is dealing with, you know, your parts. Okay, so your head, your verticals, your sills, and then inside that you can have pre-attached parts onto your main part, right? So in this case, you'll pre-attach the pocket filler onto the head. So that will be done usually on the fabrication line. Then it moves on to the assembly line, which is the unit assembly. All right, okay. So let's go back to the CAD session. with the UD window. So here you'll have again, the offset, angle, and setback will be done during the parts layout portion. The finish is paint because it's visible. The fab, just leave it as 1 for now. 1 is default. And then your adjustment should be daylight. So again, following the filler as well as the head in this case, it will be -1 3/8 on both ends. You also want the auto cut box checked as well. Okay, next we're going to move on to showing you how to do layout for our parts, and this is really important for us to do our fabs correctly, our BIM models to show correctly, so on and so forth. Okay, so right now you only learn how to input these parts manually, data manually. So in terms of layouts, you had to go back to where the use area is. So let's go back to your head. All right. Actually, before we do that, let's go to your folder. Go into drawings, and let's open up the detail that we're actually dealing with. So if you look over here, it's 1 on 602. So let's just go down to 1 on 602 and open that. So in this one, let's just ignore. Okay, is it done? Done. Okay, so this one, let's just minimize the UD window, so it might get in the way. So let's put this over here. So once the details open, just type in TM to go into model space. So your details here. So just hover over the project details, the UD window, I mean. And then now you have this portion right here. So we're going to do layout on the head right now. So if you remember correctly, we do layout with this plus button right here. So we just hit the plus button. And inside here, you'll see how it'll ask you tagline location. Okay. So now your tagline location for your head is usually the top of your head. Right? And how to notice is just pretty much it's the same as your Revit reference point. Okay. So now you want to put it at where the Revit reference point intersects with your face of system. So in this case, your face of system is this line, this white line right here. So what I like to do is you want to hold Shift on AutoCAD, right click, and then once you do that, you can do I for intersect, or just select the intersect, and just click into this line first, and then hover over the top of the head. And you can kind of see how it kind of gives you a little X right there. Let's click into that. You can do reverse too. You can do the top of the head first and then do the vertical line. But for me, I just like to do the vertical line first. So click that. So now it popped over and it grayed out all the detail, and now it just gives you a bunch of these color details, right? Color lines. So the green line is your face of system. The yellow line is your glass pocket, and then it also brought in the die of the head. So you can kind of see how the die is overlaying on top of the detail. So that's very important. So if your die comes in already kind of overlaying the detail correctly, right, meaning your die is basically just laying right on top of the detail, then you're good. So there's times where it will be misaligned. Then you have to move the die to make it so that it lays right on top of the actual part per the detail. So let's just save changes here. I'll show you what I mean for the other parts. So once that's saved, go over here, hit apply. Then we're going to move on to the filler. So this should be a little more apparent. So if you go here, you see how your face of system is not set. Well, the face of system is set, but your glass pocket's not set. The mini mat clip notch is misaligned, but you don't really have to worry yourself about that. For a few use items, the bin model is not as important as the actual unit, as well as you see how your filler piece is misaligned, right? Your filler from the details over here. If you zoom in here, it's right here. But then your filler for the actual part layout is further towards the exterior of the building. So let's try to move the glass pocket. So if you were to click into here, so if you click this arrow button over here at the top, you can kind of just grab the glass pocket, and your glass pocket is literally what it means, just glass pocket. So I like to click on where the corner edge of the gasket usually goes, so right there. So that's your glass pocket. Oh, and the interior of the building, you always want to point towards it. I forgot to explain this at first, so I apologize. So right here, you always want to point towards the interior of the building, okay? So for corners, you may want to do it at an angle, but for this one, it's just 90 degrees, so just point it 90 degrees towards the interior of the building. Okay. It should have already been preset like that. So again, mini map clip, you don't really have to do anything. What we really want here is really just the filler. So just pick any point and snap it into place per the detail. So you kind of see how the detail is overlapping with the actual die that's been brought in. So once that's set, save changes, hit apply. So that takes care of your head insert. So let's finish it off with your pocket filler. Okay, so hit the plus button. So you kind of see how right here everything is set. Glass pocket set, face the system. So here we just need to either mirror it or rotate it. So if you were to mirror, you're going to have the invert box checked right here. So since this is a a symmetrical part, you can just rotate the part instead of mirroring it if you don't want to have it inverted. So if you just rotate it 90, assuming everyone knows what the rotate command is. If you don't, then just highlight the part, type in RO, click anywhere, and just hit the F8 button to have ortho on. And then you just rotate it down. Once that's oriented correctly, just move it like how you move the head insert. Snap it in place. And that's it. Hit save. And hit apply. You can kind of see here how it's like, oh, the glass pocket and the filler is a little off, so you can actually go in here and enter this to correct it. It's off by like less than the 64th, so they should be the same. You just enter this manually. Okay. If you're set as 2 1/4, then great. Mine wasn't, so that's why I went back and kind of just corrected it. Hit apply. So once that's done, you have successfully created the data from scratch for your head, this particular family, and you've also ran layout for each of the parts. Okay, next I'm going to just give you a little example of how the layouts can be different when it comes to a very straightforward part like a head detail versus like a corner. So let's use a corner as an example. Let's do the male corner. So this one, you see that there's 2 taglines. There's the corner 125 and then the corner trim 5301. Okay, so let's open up the detail. So the detail is 552A. Let's open that up in CAD. 552A. Okay. Again, let's just minimize the UD window so it doesn't get in your way. Okay. So let's run layout. It's already done because this is all on the server, so once you place it in there, you're probably going to see it correct, or just a little bit incorrect. So let's do that. Hit that button. So now it's going to ask you to place the tagline. Okay, your tagline is always at the dim point. And where the insertion point is for the Revit family. So in this case, the Revit family Revit reference line is at the center of the corner. The center of the corner where it intersects with the faceless system, which is the dimension point. So Control Shift, right click, intersect. Just click anywhere along the center of this line. And just hover over the faceless system. Yep. So you may want to see like, oh, why is it rotated this way? So you can actually do layout here still. It'll still be correct. So what you want to do here is you want to rotate this. So it snaps into that. And then rotate this as well along. That point. So I just want to snap it to this line right here. There you go. And now you can just move it in place. Perfect. Alright. So now you still have the faceless system as well as the glass pocket that you need to do. So let's rotate these as well. Oh, I should have rotated the faceless system first. But no biggie, we can fix that. Have your ortho on, hit F8. Okay, so your faceless system. So again, we're doing it this way, right? Because you're looking at the detail from this way. Or you could have just rotated the whole detail flat, like how the detail was showing. But a lot of us just kind of do it per how the detail is shown. So let's just rotate it back into this right here. Faceless system is already set, so now you have to just move your glass pocket. So again, your glass pocket is right here. Okay. So faceless system, tagline's origin is right here. You want to rotate this. Okay, at 45 or however much what the angle shows, and then the glass pocket this way. Right. So this will make sense once I show you the return side, the female side. So let's just hit save first for this. And then this prompt will show up. You can say apply changes to other uses or taglines. Like no. Only apply my layout changes to the parts in this use and tagline. So if you just hit no, that means only one tagline gets updated with the current, with this layout. But in this case, we want to do it for all the uses that are related to this part. So hit yes. Okay. Hit apply. So there you go. So now we have to set the corner trim. Everything else should be set already, so you just have to rotate this. this guy to where it shows on the detail to make it laid right on top of it. Face of system seems to be set already. Just got to move the glass pocket. Grab that arrow, move it to snap it to where the glass pocket is. Then save changes. Yes, apply these changes. And then hit apply. Alright, next I'm going to move on to the female. Okay, so let's move on to the female. So it's the 5106. So we can use the same detail because the detail shows both the male and female. It's like a vertical. So in this one you can see that it only has the corner because we tied the trim to the male side. So we can go ahead and just hit that button. Same thing, right? So you see how it's already placed in the right spot. In right orientation, you don't have to rotate the whole thing, at least the face of system. Right? So that's what I mean by if you wanted to place the male side, similar to this, you have to rotate the detail, but there's really no need for that. You just do it all here. So since the face of system is already set, we can go ahead and just rotate this arrow, snap it onto, shift right click nearest, snap it onto the center line of the corner. Then you can move the part. Just make sure you overlay it completely on top. Oh, a little off. There you go. And then the face of system is already set, so all you have to do now is just do the glass pocket. So again, select this line right here. Once this arrow comes up, you can pick it. Then it'll just pick the glass pocket line. Just snap it into the glass pocket. I like to do the intersection of the die. So once everything is set, just hit save changes. Yes, apply. That's set. And apply. So there you go. That's the corner. You can see how different it is to the head. So yeah, so very different from the head, right? Okay, so this part's important to make generating data more efficiently. You always want to just build one use first with one rule, and then run parts layout on it, and then the next part you also want to do it. However many parts however many uses you need to build out your data without duplicating it, right? So in this case, we all did the same rule, which is vert to vert, vert to vert, vert to vert. So this would help you build out the subsequent rules like jam to jam next, and then corner to corner, and then so on and so forth. Okay. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how we use these already established rules, right, and then copy them, and then use that to generate your data that way. This is the more efficient way, where we would use either an existing data from the server or ones you already created in your personal UD window, and then copy them, paste them, and then modify them accordingly.